Hello and welcome to episode 1. I'm your host, Jordan. And on this podcast, I help you fight binge-watching boredom by watching the pilot episode of TV shows on your favorite streaming networks and help you save time and answer the question, should I binge that? On today's episode, I will be discussing the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire is a Netflix original. There's 2 seasons out there. I think it's only like 8 episodes in the first season and 5 in the second. There's not too many episodes. They're about 40 minutes long. Very binge watchable. The audience, I would say to me it seemed kind of like it's trying to reach out at people who like Game of Thrones and also documentaries, because it had a very Game of Thrones-y vibe to me. But it's a documentary style. They had clips where they were interviewing experts and everything, so it seemed like they were just trying to mix those two together, which doesn't seem like a necessary thing, but if you like documentaries or Game of Thrones, you might like this. So that's the audience. And I would say it's not as mature of an audience as a Game of Thrones, but I would say, more teenager to young adult, to people who are interested in history. I wouldn't necessarily have kids watch it. In this first episode, we're introduced to Commodus. He's a future emperor of Rome, and he's going to be the first Roman emperor to, fight in the gladiatorial arena. And then we're told that we need to go back 10 years to get his story. So we go back 10 years, and we see that Commodus is, he's very much a playboy. He wants to do other things than be the emperor. He just wants to take advantage of the fact that he's going to be the emperor. So he's with all sorts of women all the time. He's doing lots of drinking and partying. And then his mom's like, hey, yeah, you got to go to the front. You got to go to Germany. And the Germanic tribes, they have to go and fight. And he's like, what? Yeah, you have to go with your dad. So they send him out there. And he arrives, and his dad, Marcus Aurelius, he's rough on him, I guess is the best way to put it. He, tells him that he's going to train like a common soldier, and they, start training. And then as it progresses along, Marcus Aurelius falls ill, and they send a message. And if you've ever played the telephone game, the message starts as one thing, it kind of gets skewed and turned into a different thing. Well, it's kind of what happens. And instead of saying that he's sick, he's dead now, is what the message says. So his wife gets that message, and she's like, oh, no. What am I going to do if he's dead? The emperor, they need an emperor. And Commodus is the successor, but he wasn't properly transferred if the dad just dies. So there's going to be a big power vacuum, and people are going to be going after it. And normally when that happens, the old royal family, it doesn't end well for them. So she's worried. So she decides to go to Egypt to see the Roman governor, I guess you could call him, of Egypt. Because it's like these huge, it's like the second most powerful part of Rome. Egypt is super wealthy, and this guy's got a big army, and he can afford more of an army. So she sleeps with him and says, hey, can we hook up, and I'll be the empress for you because my husband's dead. I just need you to take over as emperor and not kill me or my kid. And he's like, yeah, okay, I can do that. So he starts to raise an army, and then we find out that, hey, Marcus Aurelius is not dead, and he gets word that his wife is with his other ruler, and the other ruler decides, well, I can't back down, I want to be the emperor now, so he's raising an army. So Marcus Aurelius is, trying to train his crappy son, and his wife is cheating on him, and the guy she's cheating on him with has raised an army of like 10 legions, and he's fighting a war with the Germanic tribes. So he's got to try to figure out what he's going to do. And him and his wife end up meeting up, and he's like, "Oh, is this true? Is this true?" And she's like, "Oh, no, I've always been faithful." And then he kills her because he doesn't believe it. Which, I mean, he was right. And that's the end of that episode. I mean, quite a bit happened to set up the future stories, but nothing really groundbreaking, I guess, happened. With the concept of this show, I wouldn't say it's original. I've seen lots of shows that do this kind of like a docu-series kind of a thing where it's like they try to make history fun. So I wouldn't say it's an original concept, but I do think they executed it well. I really love Roman history, so I thought they did a good job, and it kept my attention, and I wanted to keep going and know more about these characters. As for the casting, I didn't know anybody, which isn't a bad thing, because I always find it more believable with history if you don't know the actors, because then it seems like maybe they are the actual people. There was the narrator, was Sean Bean, which I think is probably why my brain went to Game of Thrones immediately, because he's Ned Stark. He's, in Game of Thrones. So, and I love his voice, so I loved having him as the narrator. I thought that was fantastic. And as for my predictions for where the show is going to go, well, if I just type in here into Google, what happens to Commodus and Marcus Aurelius, it will tell me. So I don't really have any predictions for this because it happened. I guess my biggest predictions are going to be that they don't stick 100% to history. They get the major points, but I feel like there's going to be some minor things that they're going to switch around, like the gladiators, for example. They were kind of like, the big football stars of today. Here, they put their bodies at risk, but they were $1 million, well, not $1 million, but they were lots of gold was invested in the gladiators. So they didn't just send them out there, and every fight was not a fight to the death. And I have a feeling that they're going to picture it that way in this, because that's what everybody pictures it as, is a fight to the death. But these guys were, for the most part, celebrities, and they were our sports. They were the sports stars back then. Their sports were a little different than ours, but they were sports stars. So I think that's my biggest prediction, is that they're not going to be 100% accurate in history, but whoever is, as long as they tell a good story and they hit the big points, I think it'll be fun. Now it is time to reveal if I think it is a winner or if it's a loser. It's a winner. Yeah, I think it's a winner, especially if you are into documentaries. It's not necessarily, well, if you are into documentaries that really show what's happening and not just talk about what's happening. I like both. I enjoy both kind of documentaries, ones that just show, like little pictures here and there, and the ones that are trying to reenact the history of it. And this one is definitely a reenact the history of it. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very well done. And the fact that there's, 2 seasons with not too many episodes, it really, really draws me in there. And the second season is about Julius Caesar, who's a very fascinating historical character. So I really think that I'm excited to get to the second season. So I definitely think you should check it out. Thank you so much for listening, and please make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And I will see you next time. Well, I guess I won't see you next time. You will hear me next time. Thank you. Have a good night. Good morning. Good evening. Good day. Bye.